So obviously, in what we do here as a church, we have a lot of events that we do. We just did the RG Cup. We had the pineapple party. We have Turkey Bowl. And we do a bunch of other Christmas parties, stuff like that. But this for us is kind of like our big event in a sense. We have the Voyage, which I've explained before. It's like a weekend trip where we take a bunch of little hormonal kids upstate for a whole weekend without their parents. And we try to make sure that they don't do anything stupid in a sense, but also trying to be as productive as we can be with what we're trying to accomplish.
Right.
But I think in the whole scheme of it, the Voyage, this is our 6th year doing it.
Yeah.
But there's been so many things that have happened and has changed between now and those 6 years. And so I guess I want to figure out, and I don't want to figure out, but I want to discuss just kind of the progression of how things have happened. Because there's always going to be an origin story. There's always going to be a beginning. And then there's always going to be a now. And there's always going to be a tomorrow. What do we want it to look like next year? What do we want to look like 5 years from now? Obviously, we're focusing right now on what we're going to do now. But I want to figure out, or I want to discuss what happened when we started it, because very few people that are still on the team, not very few, but there have been a lot of people that have switched from the team. And, we've had some people that have been here since day one of Voyage, and people that have kind of joined on as we've progressed throughout the years.
Yeah.
So I know, like, for example, we were both people that were there for the beginnings of everything. And I think one of the funniest things that it was, as you mentioned it in our meeting, was that it kind of just came out of just what if conversation.
Right.
What if we had an event like this? What if we had a conference? And it became what we do now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so what really happened that allowed you to kind of give us the green light to do that? You know what I mean? Because your conversation was just, what if we do something? What does it look like? Right. But when did it really become like, actually, let's do this?
Well, as I kind of mentioned to you guys and in our meeting with the volunteers, it was really funny just being in that conference room and just, I think we had just come back not too long ago from a conference, and we just thought about what it would be like, or what it would look like for us here in Long Island, because Long Island is very different than anywhere else that we can have a conference. You have the Bible Belt of the faith in a way. Texas, Atlanta, all those Louisiana and all of that. They're very into their church. They're very into God in a sense. They do things however they do it, but ultimately they still have like that in their DNA of like, all right, Sundays is for God, and you better respect God. And I got my gun, but I also got God. And so ultimately, it's very different, because ultimately you have a lot of a different society here, a different thought process here. And although we are primarily Hispanics in our church, like the mentality is still very go, work. So it is very hard to get really people really excited and really involved into, a big thing, a big event. And, it's a little different when you're talking about young people, and we know that young people need to connect to the church. We know that young people need to continue growing in the church and become the church. If not, we're going to be dinosaurs that are going to become extinct at some point. And then all of a sudden, what happens to, the tomorrow of the church? So we thought, all right, like what it would look like. What do you think an event like that would cost us, or what it would take? And again, it was just at a conference table, just sitting there throwing ideas of what it would look like, because we do have the facilities, which is a big plus, big bonus. But at the same time, we have no idea how to do anything. So ultimately it was like, all right, I'll find out how much a tent would cost, or I'll find out how much a sound thing would cost, and the lighting, and games, and what kind of games we would do out there. So it just became that, and it's like, all right, cool, do it. Just give us information about it, and next meeting we have, let's figure it out. But I feel like because of the excitement of what it could possibly be and the vision of that, the potential of it, I think that that's a very thing that really drove people to really believe in it, all the leaders. Because again, it wasn't like this is what we're going to do and we feel passionate about this, so I want you guys to be on board with it. But it was rather more of a imagine what this could do if we were able to do it, how much impact it would have. And then when everybody came back with information, everybody came back very excited about it, like, hey, like almost as if this is what we're going to do. And honest to God, I thought of it like, all right, we're just getting information, so perhaps one day we can make it work. But it was never in my wildest dreams to say like we're going to have this event happening like 4 months from now. And again, it just happened that everybody was so on board with it, and we didn't have to convince anybody. We didn't have to pull teeth. It was like everybody was so passionate about it that eventually everything just began to work. And call this person and call that person, and again, trial by error. I think the funniest thing, or the most fun memory of it was just being sitting on top of a fence, like a 10-foot fence or so, just pulling on a string because we didn't want to rent a tent because the tent was so expensive. And we didn't have the funds for that, but we bought this tarp that we were pulling on it, and we made our own tent so that we can have this under the rain, which it did rain that year too. So it was awesome. It was really awesome how it all started. It started really out of passion. It started out of pure intentions, and in a very naive way. So I think that that's why God has backed it up in such an awesome way, because it came out of a very, very pure place, just to help people, to help these kids connect with God in a different way. So I think that that's our beginning, and that was really the heart behind it. And where we stand today is, we're 6 years in, and I think we've been productive. I think we've been doing it better. It's running better. More people are on board with it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's been transitions. There's been people that, obviously go from being part of the team, and then some people that obviously have left because of many different reasons. And I think the bottom line is that this means more than a name. This is not just a name. This is not for a person. This is not just the one person's goal or dream, but rather it will outlive everyone that is working on it right now. That's our belief. That's our heart. That, even when we are no longer part of this because we were somewhere else doing something else, like, the voyage still remains the voyage, So that's where we're at.
I think one of the coolest things about it is that it was, like you said, it was so organic in the way it kind of went about.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like you guys as the pastors of what we do here was like, this is just another thing we're going to start doing. It was more of like an everybody conversation. It's like, what do we think we want to do?
Yeah.
And like you said, it was so funny, like putting up a tent where it's like the tent literally just lasted until we were done. That last day that we were there, the tent started to like rip and fall apart.
Yeah.
And I think it was like a really cool indicator of what this whole process was going to be, because we understood, or we knew that if we did what we could do, God would do everything he would do, or he needed to do, until we knew that we were done doing that. Mm-hmm. And, it's just every year we could do it. It's like we see something new. We see something different, something that God has never done before in our lives and in the lives of these young people.
Yeah.
But you said we have facilities. And it's like we don't really have a lot of facilities. Like we just have a building that people can sleep in. Mm. Other than that, we kind of do everything else. Like mm-hmm. Now we've moved past building a tent, and now we actually rent a tent, which is so much less time spent on trying to figure this out. And It's so much more space that we actually do have, because it covers the entire tennis court. Yeah. And it's like 2 tennis courts. So it's a huge, massive tent. I remember the first year our games were like a slip and slide. It was just a blue tarp that they put water and soap, and people were just like breaking their necks on this thing. And now we're like, we rent stuff that comes in and just we put stuff together in a way where it's become more of an actual production rather than a 4 month, like, oh my gosh, let's just figure out what we can do in 4 months. And I think that's one of the craziest things is we spend so much time now planning the voyage. Like we start thinking about it basically as soon as we're done. But we really start our meetings like in January to figure out for August. You have almost more than half. You have more than half a year to plan it out. And that year is literally in May we were having the first conversation, and in August we were going up there. You know what I mean? And I think the progression of it has evolved so much where. We were discussing before that, these young kids are expecting something, and, sometimes we don't do our best, and sometimes we're not as diligent as we can be, but they know, and they truly believe that something is going to happen while they're up there. And I think, like you mentioned, like we just want to be facilitators of that, of their encounter with God. And, if we have nothing there, and if we can just accomplish that, I think we've accomplished what we wanted to accomplish at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's wild. It's so scary having over 100 young people up there.
Yeah.
And, there's bears up there and wild bears. And it's just so weird that.
Forget about the bears. Is the kids trying to take selfies with the bears. That's the problem.
Or the kids that are like on the roof in the middle of the night, just like trying to hang out because they don't want to sleep.
No.
And it's so funny because I was talking to one of my kids the other day, and they're like, I remember the first year I went. It's like, I didn't sleep at all that first night. I was like, dude, I was past that.
Yeah.
Just with how much you do, it's like so exhausting,
And, as we were saying, the expectation is there by the young people. You do have a couple of people that really have no idea what this is and have no clue what goes on. They're just maybe their first time. Or even they don't really have any expectation for it. They just go for the weekend as I'm just going to go out there. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when you show up to a place where God's presence is, you can leave the same. Something happens. You're impacted by the presence of God. And that's what we want to bring down. That's what we want to give to the kids. We don't want to give a weekend of hype. We don't want to give a weekend of just fun. What's fun if it's not attached to joy? Fun is just an event. Fun is just a high, but we want joy that ultimately carries through their school year, through their obstacles when they get back home. They're still going to have the same family. They're still going to have the same issues at home, but ultimately we want them to come equipped with something more, and that's God to say, you know what? Yeah, these issues are still here. These problems are still here, but I'm not gonna bow down to them. I'm not going to go without a fight. I'm going to fight for what I know. I'm going to fight with the tools that I've been given in this weekend. And I think that's really the thing that you feel most happy about, that you do see people that have this huge expectation, and they come back, just filled with God's gifts and abilities, and they really had a great experience with God. And even to those, as I said, that don't have any expectations, they still get filled and they still get something, because ultimately where God is, change happens, So that's what, that this is what I believe the voyage is really all about. Just that, facilitating that to the kids, to the young people. And it's so great because by means of us facilitating to the young people, we still get something in return. Like God is so good that he just, he doesn't allow you to go home with empty-handed. Something happens there that you just know that God was there also for you, And that's so cool. That's why so many people sign up for volunteering. You got tons of people, and that's so cool that, tons of people just sign up that we get to a point where we have to turn people down. It's like, hey, listen, we have enough volunteers. Like, thank you so much for wanting to be there. But ultimately, like, we can only take so many people because we don't have space for all of you. We have about 150 beds for kids, and that's from upstate, and that's from here also. So if we, if we're max capacity, like, the volunteers are getting a cot somewhere,
Sleeping
maybe
bag.
sleeping bag somewhere, maybe no AC, and maybe floor status, but ultimately they want to come back next year because they know that God was moving and all of that, and they were filled by that. So it's so cool because that also spreads to other people word of mouth as to what happened there, that other people want to be part of that. So that's exciting to know, that something real is happening, truly life changing. So that's why we love the voyage.
And I think what's really different in all of this is like we were discussing is that it's not about the hype of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. It's not like we're getting all these bands and all these speakers to come in and to make it this whole big event, and we're not socialized. We're not on social media and like getting kids all excited, and we're not having people from other churches like we want to sign up. How do we? I think everything's in house.
Yeah.
Like yeah, we have people that are coming from out of state to the event, but they have been impacted and reached by our home church in one way or another.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes this whole process a little bit different, is that it's not really about making it an event or making it a show, but it's really about the essence of the whole thing and the main thing in a sense, right?
Yeah. And that's ultimately, we want to have the farm system as they do in sports, where it's like you have in baseball, you have the farm system that grows the kids and from t-ball to pee-wees and so on and so on, and they get to the little leagues, and they grow the athlete, they grow the kid to be an in-home part of the team, I suppose, part of the family, part of the whole mentality of what's that house, what the values of that team is. And so eventually they get to the majors and they know everything, and they've been there since day one. So we want that. We want our kids to be at GDI, where all the kids, they encounter Jesus in a different way, and they're taught the Bible stories, the cool Noah story, and they got little animals floating around, and they hear it and they see the pictures. But then once they transition into young, teenagers, we want them to also understand that God is now a choice for you. You have to make your choices. You have to make the right decisions according to what is going to be good for you. And so the responsibility is on them. Like, parents are going to be there and help you, and we're going to be there and help you. But ultimately, it's up to you to make the right choices in your life when no one is watching. So we want that to continue and carry over into now RGC, where it's the college students. The college students are now living their own life, doing their own thing, being independent and really caring about their own personal life, having to make those tough choices of, payments and debt and school loans and relationships. And it's like, all right, how do you keep glorifying God through your life and making the right choices that will please God and that, will bless you and bless the people around you. And to our church, the main church, the home, we want our generations of young people to actually be more influential in the church, where the church doesn't get older, but rather it starts looking younger. People flowing into that, and helping the bigger picture. We're not different entities. We're not different churches. We're not, trying to create a divide of culture. We're actually trying to integrate it so that, we become a lot alike, in all different stages of the growth of the church. So ultimately, when we have that, the voyage is meant to help that transition. GDIers for the first time that are integrating into RG, that's their first event. That's their first impression. They've never gone to any service of RG, and this is the first time they're going into any activity of RG. So they're going into the voyage like, whoa, what is this? So this young people going from little kid to teenager, it's a big deal. So we want those kids to grow up in the church and stay in the church and continue fighting for the church of Christ. And then anyone else that wants to come, cool, do it, fine, not a problem. You're more than welcome. But ultimately, our focus is in house. In house. That's how we're going to continue growing, keeping them in house. And yeah, it absolutely is not about the hype. It's not about making it so that we're appealing to the masses, or we're appealing to people to come because we have a renowned preacher, or we have a really cool band coming in, or a rapper, or anyone that just has a lot of following anywhere else. Like we just, we like them, and we obviously integrate them into our services and our and the influences that we have in our church, but we don't want to make it about that. Ultimately, the most important thing in all of this is Jesus. And if we have Jesus in the center of everything that's happening in there, it doesn't matter who's communicating the message of Christ. It doesn't matter who's playing the instrument. If they have the right heart and the right attitude, God is going to do his thing. And that's what we want. So yeah, I hope that we never change or deviate from that. That the heart of the voyage is about Christ, and not about the hype of people just wanting to come in just because we have something appealing for them. We don't want to appeal to the only to the culture, or only to their earthly desires. We want to appeal to their hearts and their need, their craving for intimacy inside to God. So that's really why we do this.
So I think like one of the last things that I kind of wanted to just point out, and that I kind of wanted to, I think it's like a fun fact or something cool, is that people go to the voyage, like you said, is their first time going to like anything RG related, and typically that transition happens when they're like 12 now.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been doing the voyage for pretty much half of some of these kids' lives. And I think that's so wild, because at some point, kids are going to be going to the voyage, and we're going to have been doing the voyage longer than they've been alive.
Yeah, it's really just a reminder of really how your one small choice, one small action really has an impact, not only on you and on directly on the people around you, but rather it's going to have a ripple effect on many different levels, through years, weeks, whatever it may be. And so that's what we're hoping for here. That's our desire, that this is longevity, where it's, again, it just keeps on going. It just keeps progressing and getting better and better each year. And, the hope is that we can really have a facility that can accommodate more people. We want to know that we've grown enough people in our youth ministry that are committed, that are, volunteering in all levels, that are committed to God and committed to the church, that they run the voyage 100%. It's all in-house, and that they can, again, do that on their own, and they know exactly how to do it. So that, again, in years to come, we can have a bigger facility, again, bigger building. And we have the land to do a lot of great things. It really, the sky's the limit in a sense. It's just obviously being diligent and having a plan for it. But ultimately, we would love to have a bigger facility to accommodate more people to go. And the hope and the dream is just that it continues to expand in such a way that we're really just reaching to all of our kids. Every kid that's in our youth ministry, every kid that's in our church gets to experience that. And not only that, but that their friends can also be invited to it, that they bring all of their friends into it, and that they can experience Jesus for the first time, perhaps in those sort of settings. I think that would be amazing. That would be fantastic. Again, right now, the short term is really just home. We don't really know what's going to happen, but obviously we've had real encouraging words from other people that are saying to us that this would be a really, really amazing thing to be able to do in different places because of how legitimate it is and how or pure it is, the intentions of this particular event, how it can really do a lot of good if you had other people coming in, such as different churches, and again, smaller churches that are looking for that growth, in their youth ministry. And we'd never want to influence people to from other places to come to our church. We don't want people to just be added onto our church. We want to reach the people that don't know about God, and those are the young people that we want to help and grow. Other people that are in different ministries, we're not at the level yet of like kind of giving to them. We would love to help them, but we're not at that level yet. We need to take care of home first. And eventually we don't know, maybe we get to that point where it's like we can invite other people from different churches and open that up to them and see how we can help them in whatever way. But short term, we're looking to help out our youth in great ways to experience God. We will outlive the years of the voyage. The beginnings are going to be just that, small beginnings, but we will see great things later on. So it's cool.
You know what I mean? I feel like every year, you have people going to the voyage, and you don't really know what happens if you don't actually go.
Right.
And for even those that do go, like the young people that are going, they don't really know what happens to prepare for it. They don't really know what happens when you're there, and the kids are running around and having the time of their lives, and volunteers are like trying to catch a breath and trying to eat their sandwich like in the 5 seconds that they have because they have to go somewhere else. I think there's so much that's missed in terms of like the actual essence of what makes it what it is. And I want to be able to show people that, and not in a sense of like, oh my gosh, it's so much work. Like, why do you do that? Or, oh, I would never want to do that. But in a way where it's like these young people are inspired and encouraged to want to be in that position at some point. Like you said, we want to grow in-house. And so I want these young people that are going into RGC or that are, starting to become seniors and juniors to have that desire to want to be part of something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That way, when they do cross into RGC, they're like, I want to be there. I want to sleep 2 hours a night. I want to eat chicken and French fries for dinner. I mean, who doesn't want to eat chicken and French fries? But I want to feel a little bit of discomfort knowing the weight of what's actually happening and all of that.
Yeah, the end result is worth it. And that's a really good thing to know, because eventually your parents need to tell you the sacrifices that they've done for you to be where you're at, the sacrifices that they're doing in order for you to have the Jordans on your feet, the sacrifices that they had to do in order for you to have the toy that you're looking for, or the video game, or the phone that's in your hands. Your parents need to let you know that this wasn't just a wish and it just appeared. So they also need to know that, as a church, there is hard work that is being done in order to achieve something. God moves mountains, man. That's why he gave us faith, so that we can use that faith to do great things and dream of great dreams and see them come to pass if we trust God and we give, everything to him. But ultimately we need to do our due diligence, and we do need to pay the bills, and we need to work hard at it. And if we do our part, then God will do his part. So yeah, it is an important thing, that to let everybody know that there is a responsibility that needs to be taken, that we all have a great responsibility in all of this. As we have the responsibility to provide the means for this event to happen, the voyage, the responsibility of the young people is to not take it for granted that this is here, and that your 4 years or 5 years that you can go to, the voyage is, starting actually, it would be 6 years, 2 middle school years and 4 high school. Those 6 years will be gone in no time. As we stand right here, those kids that went the first year, they're done.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's it. They're done. And when they look back at it, if they went through year number one and this is their last year, there is no more available to them. And you know, the next step is serving. You can go to the voyage as a serving part of this whole event, as someone that's going to give. You're no longer there to just receive. And that's a transition, you know, and that's what we want. And ultimately, you know, you only have a short window of opportunity to do the best with what you can. And if you grasp, you know, what it takes, then you will appreciate that. So we, you know, absolutely hope that, you know, through people understanding that and watching this and kind of getting that sense of responsibility, that they can grab it and say, you know what, I do too want to be part of that. I do as well want to grow older with this vision. I want to carry this and I want to be able to help other people with it and just bring awareness to everybody with it. So eventually, you know, people are going to look back and say, wow, that's crazy. Because ultimately, you know, to us now, it's so simple in a way. You know, everything is just, you know, everything is in its place and everything just works like clockwork. But the beginnings were not like that at all. So, you know, we've come a long way.
Like chickens with head cut off.
Yeah.
I can't even speak. I remember the first year we went up like a week before.
Yes.
To try to build everything.
Yeah.
I ended up in the hospital that weekend.
Was that the cut?
Yeah, I have like a giant scar, but it was so insane. Like, I don't know what the heck is wrong with me, because I was in the hospital. We got back at like 2 a.m, and then we were up at like 8 a.m. to start like working. And then here I am still bleeding, like trying to put up that tent.
It's quite the stories to tell about.
Yeah.
It's definitely fun, and those are the things that allow you to appreciate, you know, the beginnings.
And I think it's something that you've always tried to, or not that you've tried to do, but something you've always said is like, man, I wish we had this when we were younger.
Yeah.
You know, I wish there was a voyage when I was in RG and I was just a kid that had no clue what I wanted to do with my life.
Yeah.
And it's so cool because now we're giving these kids the opportunity to have that when they're younger.
Yeah.
But when they grow up and when they're older, they're able to give somebody else that same opportunity.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it sucks. Like, we didn't get to do it. We were just part of the doing of it, you know.
Yeah.
But I think as generations or as young people shift to be a little bit older, you know, I think it brings a different perspective.
And that's ultimately what a parent wants to do. You know, they want to give their kids an opportunity that's greater than what they had. You know, no parent wants to leave their kid worse off than they were. You know, they want to leave them with an opportunity to go to college, to have a better education, to have a better career, to be a better person as a whole. So ultimately, I think that that's really our heart and our desire through all of this, that, you know, we're in a way spiritual fathers and spiritual mothers to these kids. And we want to give them a better opportunity than what we've had. So we're not here to complain about what we didn't have, but rather say, well, because I didn't have that, I want to give that to these young people, that they're able to have that healthy opportunity to just connect with God in a different way and just have fun through it. You know, have fun through their growth and their experience with Jesus, you know, and enjoy it. So it's cool. So if you're new to this channel and you've seen and watched so if you're new to this channel, you know what to do, man. Do the hit button down there, actually down there, subscribe to this channel, hit that little ring bell thing so that you can get notifications, and you know, thumbs up for liking the video. A lot of cool information is about to hit your way. And okay, bye.
Are you subscribed?
Yeah, my wife made me do it.
But across the street, it's the bakery is Ophelia's.
Yeah.
Are they the same entity?
It looks like it would be. but I don't know if they're gonna open because that used to be like a factory.
That bakery has been opening for like a year now.
But first it's like just a straight up factory where it's like
I'm talking to you, but it's really us talking to them.
I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to you. They're just a byproduct of what's happening here. Their ears listening somewhere else.
Okay.
It's like really not happening. If you don't see it, is it really happening?
If a tree falls in the forest, does it really make a sound?
Does it?
I think so.
Well, that's what you think.
Science. Don't judge me.
I believe in science. Okay.
It fits.
You're like, what is that spot out there?